Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week, day 4. And we have a number of events going on today, and we have a special guest today. My name is Kofi Annan. I'm the statewide lead for Global Entrepreneurship Week in California, also founder of Anansi.com. And I have a special guest today with me, David Meltzer. David Meltzer is the co-founder of Sports One Marketing. He formerly served as the CEO of the renowned Lee Steinberg Sports Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. David is a 3-time international best-selling author, a top 100 business coach, and executive producer of Entrepreneur's #1 digital business show, Elevator Pitch, and the host of the top entrepreneur podcast, The Playbook. I'd like to welcome David Meltzer. Welcome, David.
Thank you for having me. What a
great
opportunity.
Thank you. So, David, I know that you've been involved in Global Entrepreneurship Week previously, and you definitely have an experience with the week and kind of inspiring entrepreneurs. So it's definitely good to have you back to really inspire some of the other entrepreneurs that are dialing in this week.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is going to change the world and save the world, and it always has. And I don't think.
David, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I think you're frozen.
Oh, I'm on my. I can see me fine. I'm sorry. I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we're just frozen for a quick minute. But yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, yes, that entrepreneurs are important because that's what's going to save this world. When you think of the extraordinary thing, people don't think of. Strong support of entrepreneurships and support from entrepreneurships. So it changed my life. And I've helped change my life.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so David, just kind of really, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are dialed into Entrepreneurship Week, and some who are on different spectrums of entrepreneurship. Some who are just starting out, some who are, as you can imagine, a lot of people who are now thinking about entrepreneurship as an option outside of kind of just going the corporate route. Just give us a sense of how you started. How did you end up in kind of this entrepreneurship sphere yourself?
Well, the first thing I did was my relationship. I wanted to make a lot of money to buy my mom. That gave me a perspective. Make the most money doing. Even though my mom was a big doctor, failure fan, even my real father told me, you made an hour being a doctor or a lawyer. There's only so many out there. So what inspired me early on was I knew I could get out of my circumstance and buy my mama house in a car. I had unlimited capability. And I could pick and choose when to work, where to work, how to work, and that inspired me as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that's also key for a lot of folks. Even those who have gone into kind of the corporate traditional realm as well. Thinking about that self-sufficiency and that how can you actually make the impact that you're having, but then also provide for your family. Whether it be your parents or maybe even kids or even your some of the little ones. So yeah, I mean, family for you has been really key in your journey. I think talk to us about kind of the impacts that maybe your mother, your grandmother, I know they've had a pretty big impact on shaping your perspective of entrepreneurship and just for your career in general.
Yeah, watching my mom raise 6 kids, work 6 jobs, packed her into a paper bag or a wagon, and all the lessons of just being happy. And understanding how you can't give what you don't have. The only time I wasn't happy was when we didn't have. So I thought in my mind, money bought happiness and love. Later on in my career, after I made tons of money, I realized money still was very important. Currency. It was an object of energy that put into the flow. But it was important because it allowed you to shop. Because money is so important in a business. Stay in business. It allowed me to buy community center. So the way that I created these non-negotiables in my life was to blend the currency of money with the currency of faith. Another object to get what I want. So I believe that I'm always where I'm supposed to be at the right place at the perfect time, but I angle with everything I have. I enjoy the consistent pursuit of my potential, angle to everything that I want, but have faith that I'll end up somewhere better. And that to me is the entrepreneur's creed. It allows me to enjoy where I'm at, angle and have faith I'll end up somewhere better.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, on your website, you have this quote there: make a lot of money, help a lot of people, have a lot of fun. And you know, I think it really succinctly, you know, encapsulates what you essentially what you just said: the relationship between money as a currency for other things. Do you find that in your conversations with different entrepreneurs and even maybe even business leader that there's that clear understanding of the role, not just the value of money, but the role money can and should play? I know, you know, particularly as a kind of more capitalist society, you know, it's all about kind of the, you know, what makes the headlines is getting the money, valuations and investments, those kinds of things. Talk about your conversations with leaders and then also entrepreneurs as it relates to money.
Sure. You might want to mute while you might want to have the that people are complaining about. So just real quickly, if you mute, then we won't have that. Perfect. So the conversations about money are so important because there's three worlds that entrepreneurs live in, and those worlds can be conflictual, interfering with what you want. The first world is a world that a lot of entrepreneurs live in, and it's a scarce world. It's a world of not enough. And what we want to do is teach people that you're not a victim, that this is what makes your story. You are not a victim. You don't live in a world of not enough. Everything is not happening to you. And then what happens is through that transition, we teach people about the world of just enough. So many people, especially entrepreneurs, live in the world of just enough. When I got out of law school, I made over $1 million 9 months out of law school. And I had lived over a decade in the world of just enough for me. And that world is an interesting world because it has a nuance that, you know, I used to give to receive. The more I gave, the more I would receive. It was a trade. It was a negotiation. There was a scarcity to it, although there was abundance and philanthropic behavior tied to it, but there always was some sort of negotiation or a trade or a scarce relationship between what I was giving and what I wanted to receive. And that's because everything was happening for me. And in the world of for me, we buy things we don't need. And when we're unhappy, we buy different things we don't need. And if we still remain unhappy, we buy more things that we don't need. And even beyond that, we buy things to impress other people. We also utilize the ego. The E in the ego is we're so worried about our employment status, impressing, overselling, back-and-selling, manipulating, and lying. The E for employment status. We define ourselves by some title or by our company's success or by what we do. And then the G for ego. The G stands for what we get. We're so worried about what we're going to get. And so much of that is to impress other people, which is the O, right? We cannot vote for what other people want. You know, just because people love you doesn't mean that they give you good advice. So many people focus in on what they don't want or what's missing or what other people want for them, and they get exactly that. And so utilizing the understanding and the definition and defining ourselves in ego, we can't live in that world of for me, in that world of scarcity. Even though I was a multimillionaire, I was completely unhappy. And it is until I realized through key values and daily practices that I could live in a world of faith and money, a world of more than enough of everything for everyone to come through me for others. So now I don't give to receive, I receive so I can give. I have no interference or corrosion between me and everything that already exists that is mine, the impossible, the imagination, the inspiration. I utilize all of that to come through me with appreciation, gratitude, and my values to give away to everyone else. And those are the relationship with the leaders and the entrepreneurs of the world that we have to inspire people to live in this abundant world of more than enough of everything for everyone.
Thank you. That's great, David. I love how you encapsulated that. Really, the how the impact that ego could really have on the success that you ultimately you want as an entrepreneur, as an investor, and those kinds of things. Talk to us about. You mentioned kind of the breakdown of the ego and the relation to the daily practices that you do to kind of balance that ego, but then also focus on what's important. Talk to us about.
Yeah, so the advantage is number one, to know your values. So know your personal values. What's most important to you, your non-negotiables. For me, it's my health first, because I can't give what I don't have. If I'm not here and healthy, I can't help anybody. Two, it's our family values. So I spend a minimum of time every day with my wife, with my son, with my teenage daughters, and my mom, to make sure that they all know that I'm happy, I'm healthy, I love them and appreciate them, and I always have their back. And then three, time to study every day. Studying to me is the mathematical equation of luck. What I pay attention to, what I focus in on, what I give intention to, what I think, what I say, what I do, what I hear, even the unconscious competencies that I have, this DNA that I am possessed with, personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions, all of those combined, attention plus intention equals coincidence, the mathematical equation of luck. So I utilize that in order to effectuate my personal values, my experiential values. People don't know what they want. I guarantee you, walk out of this today, Entrepreneur Week here in California, and ask someone, what do you want to do? 99% of them will say, I don't know. Where do you want to go? I don't know. What do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to order? I don't know. You got to know your what. You got to know experientially what you want in the day. The why will follow. Giving values. You want to make sure that you are providing value and service to others with those giving values, and making sure that you are aligning them synergistic and supplementary to your capabilities, your skills, your knowledge of the what and the who, as well as your desire to must be what you can be. And then finally, the receiving values. What do you want out of all of this personal, experiential, and giving values? What do you want so you can allow it to come through you with appreciation? And those four key values to take inventory of, you need to remember, you've got to be a hypocrite. You got to be a hypocrite. Don't be afraid of it. What's a hypocrite? Somebody that changes their mind. Somebody that changes their mind. That's what you got to do. Because if you're growing, learning, making mistakes, you're changing your mind because you're expanding and you don't know what you don't know. You can't look at things in the totality. You live in a universe of infinity and limitlessness. That means you can't understand everything. You have no idea, even though what you're angling to, where you're going to end up, because you have faith it's somewhere better. So you need to make sure that you have that mindset, that heart set of the way you feel, and what you think, say, and do within the context of taking inventory of your values and not being a hypocrite, going to not being afraid to be a hypocrite. Don't be afraid to change your mind. You are just a snapshot of yourself. That's all you are. People are going to judge that snapshot from now until you're dead, but you're just a snapshot.
Yeah, and I love that too. It sounds really controversial, right? Don't be to be a hypocrite, right? That sounds, in probably sometime around last year, around this time, some of these things probably didn't resonate with people because a lot of folks were comfortable where they were, right? They were comfortable kind of receiving the accolades and kind of just being doted upon and everything. But I imagine that, within the past year, all of us locally, globally, personally, societally have had to reevaluate and re-look at, what our values are. So even talk to me about your transformation and what you've had to change or in the past year to help you both make sense of where we are right now in the world, both broadly, but then personally, but then how you even see that impacting you go.
That's a great question. So number one, uncertainty. Before the pandemic, I was in the school of, oh my gosh, uncertain times. And what I've realized is that there are only uncertain times. In fact, if anyone out there can tell me with certainty what is going to happen tomorrow, give me a call. Right? You can text me. It's right there. 949-298-2905. Text me, because we can make billions of dollars. So the one thing that's changed is my perspective of uncertainty, that instead of fearing uncertainty, I embrace it, that every day is changing and I don't know what I don't know. The second thing is the speed in which things are changing. my perspective of the accelerated speed in which things are changing. I know we've talked about that there's been more change in the last 10 years than on the history of the earth. Well, there's been more changes in the last 7 months, and then maybe even on the history of earth. But certainly these 7 months of change were not anticipated to be even within the context of 7 years. So number one, having an understanding and a perspective of uncertainty and anticipating uncertain times, but more importantly, with accelerated change, what do I have control of? And the biggest lesson that I've learned through this pandemic is I only have control of what's inside of me, my mindset, my heart set, my conscious continuum, my conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, which constitutes that continuum. Those are the only things that I have control of. And the most important lesson is that I cannot find outside of me, no matter what's changing, what's uncertain, what I can't find inside of me. So I went into a deep exploration of the skills, the knowledge, and desire that exists within me to make sure that I have complete control of the mindset that will maximize what I want, the heart set, the feelings that I have that will maximize what I want, and of course the conscious continuum, continually growing, learning, accelerating, creating compound interest, utilizing Einstein's rule of 72, where I know within a certain period and context of a percentage that I'd like to grow, all I got to do is times it by 72. So if something has 2 segments, it'll take me 36 to get there, 2%, 10%, 7.2 segments until I get there. But I know that I will double and get to where I want to do, because I am enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential. I believe in compound interest. I believe that you can be persistent, you can be aggressive and patient all at the same time.
I love that. And I always kind of when I talk to folks that are kind of in school or coming, even my son, I have a 7-year-old son, and for years, similar to you, trying to do a lot of things, trying to be some things that others expect you to be, whether it be your family or people in your immediate society and everything like that. One of the things that I always latch onto for self-definition, or at least for guiding yourself, is what is my superpower, right? This superhero movies are really popular now, so there's not, before not as many people read comic books, but what is your superpower? And as you'll see in most superhero movies and most superheroes, as they're defined, is that they usually have one thing. I mean, they do a lot of things, like Superman has sight and all these kind of things, but usually they're known for the superpower. So David, what is your superpower?
I have 2 superpowers. The one is most important, and it's kindness. My superpower is I am consistently seeing how I can be kind to my future self. Kindness beats being right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry. It resolves all worried, fears, it resolves everything. And so my superpower that I keep developing, practicing, is I am kind, and I look upon picking up trash and putting carts back at the grocery store, and smiling at people and helping them with everything I have. So that superpower is what I have. And the other superpower, believe it or not, that I love, and I know people laugh at this, but Batman, he's the only one that has this superpower, and it's kind of a variance. People won't know how to take it, but Batman's superpower is what? He's rich. And so that to me is a superpower, and I want to have as much as I can to give it all away and do so much and impact so much. And you can't do that unless you have a lot. And so the other superpower is kind and rich. Those are an unbeatable combination.
I love it. I love it. You're right. I actually hadn't thought about it that way, because Batman, a lot of times people say he kind of doesn't have a superpower, right? Because you compare him to Superman and all these Flash, all these other people who are like superpower from within, and then the next thing people think is like, oh well, maybe he's gadget. But I love that context, especially that you've put it with. It's like Batman's superpower really is through his abundance of financial goals, right? That allows him to train and get the gadgets and be able to do all these different things. I think that's something that entrepreneurs can kind of look, because you might not think you have a superpower, but how can you make your revenue and your money your part of your superpower? I love that.
Iron Man is the same way, right?
Iron Man is the same way, right? Like,
yeah.
That is true. That is true. So, speaking about superpowers and kind of, um, just moving forward, someone looking at you and kind of following you online, and you have a really great personal brand, and you're really cranking a lot of stuff. They'll say, how does he do it every day, right? I mean, you have over 500 episodes of your podcast, the playbook. You have, the office hours that you're doing online. You're writing books like Game Time Decision Making. How do you do it? How do you manage your day?
So there's two ways, and I think this is the most valuable question you can ask me, because time is a variable that if you can master, you can live multiple lifetimes. You can live and bend time. You can multitask when you focus in on this. So number one rule about how to be more active, right? I'm not busy. Busy means inaccessible, is to be and have a kaleidoscope, a lens. I call it the Meltzer kaleidoscope. I look at everything and study it with attention, intention, coincidence, with the lens of productivity. How much value am I going to get out of this minute, second, day, month, year, whatever? A lens of accessibility, which is a bifocal. How accessible am I to others? And how can I access what I want? And then finally, gratitude, right? Gratitude to find the light, the love, and the lessons and everything, to know that pain is not a stop sign. It's not going to cause me to procrastinate. It's not going to cause me to delay. It's not going to cause me to quit, which is the number one reason people don't get what they want, is they quit because they don't understand the rule of 72 or segmentation, acceleration, growth, compound interest. So they think that when they're halfway there, it's halfway in time. It's not. It's 90% the way in time to get halfway there. But we can get into that later. But moreover, understanding time to have two routines, an adaptable routine and a regular routine. So why do we need an adaptable routine? Because life happens. Your in-laws coming into town, there's a beautiful day, the car breaks down, there's something that occurs, a pandemic. So you need to have an adaptable routine for those days when you just can't get everything that you want prioritized correctly with the lenses of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, that you're studying the activity that you get paid for, activity you don't get paid for, and of course your sleep, right? Remember, my tomorrow starts today at 9 p.m. I think I get a workout between 5 and 8 hours every day. And my warm up to that workout is called an unwind routine at 9 p.m. So I have an adaptable routine that's based off of my values, my health first, a minimum of an hour a day, my family, 30 minutes with my wife, minimum, 30 minutes with my 10-year-old son, minimum, 2 minutes of minimum time with my 3 teenage daughters. I wanted 5 minutes, they gave me 2, and then 1 minute with my mom to tell her that I'm happy, I'm healthy, I love her and appreciate her. All she really wants to know in the day is that I'm happy, healthy, love, and appreciate her. And if I have that adaptable routine, no matter what happens, I have non-negotiables that I get done. And then I do things now because 100% of the things I get done get done. Successful people, the difference between them and everyone else is they get shit done. So get stuff done 100% of the time. Study your time, your activity you get paid for, your activity you don't get paid for, and your sleep. Have an unwinding routine and utilize 2 routines, an adaptive routine and a set routine according to your values, your lenses, to provide as much value as you can. And the last thing I'm going to tell you about multitasking, because you mentioned, I have a top podcast called The Playbook. I have 4 different books out. I speak around the world. I have an executive coaching program. I got a free training every Friday for everyone to come to. Just go to dmeltzer.com right there. You can go to david@dmeltzer.com, but you can also, I have private groups for you. I have all these things for free, exercises, guides. I'll send you my book. I'll sign it. I'll ship it to you. How do you do it all? Because I know that focusing is a muscle. And I know that you can only focus on one thing at one time. One thing at one time is all you can focus it on. So what do? I practice refocusing. So it looks as if I'm doing 2 things at once. So I use that muscle, and because it's such an instant of a second, it's not even fathomable how quickly it moves. But I focus, refocus, focus, refocus. I can do 3 things. I've been calling my mom while we're doing this speech. You didn't even know it because I can refocus that fast. Amazing, right? So have an adaptable routine, a normal routine, study your calendar, activity you get paid for, activity you don't, your sleep. I'm promising you can bend time. You can be as productive, accessible, and gracious in your entire existence.
Wow, we're super inspiring, particularly for those of us who try to do so much and we feel the overwhelm. We're on social media, we're kind of consuming a few different channels, those kinds of things. To the sense of what are you what are you consuming? What's really inspiring you? What are you taking in to help fuel both you as a person, but also your business? So talk to us about some of your the ways that you're consuming content and or media or input.
Well, first of all, it's not the news. Not inspiring. What it is, I am a huge, I'm going to give off what I do every day. Wayne Dyer. I study Dr. Wayne Dyer, Power of Intention. I study the Course in Miracles every single day. I study Think and Grow Rich every single day. And then from there, I take the ideas that I learned from those three, and then I use Google to find all types of videos, podcasts, blogs, anything that's pertaining. This Google thing that they came up with, it's incredible. You can actually search for what you're looking for, and it comes right up to you. So I use as my cornerstone 3 different mutually connected texts, the Course in Miracle, Napoleon Hill, and Wayne Dyer, to come up with ideas or questions of being more interested than interesting. I then use Google, and I find everyone from, Tom Bilyeu to Ed Milet to Tony Robbins to Dean Graziosi to Ty Lopez to Jay Shetty to, of course, my homeboy Gary Vee. All those guys come up all the time. And then I find all kinds of other weird videos and information that give me the information I need to stay inspired.
Yeah, and I'm the same way too. It's about the curation, right? And I think that's probably where a lot of folks receive the overwhelm. And you mentioned this before as well, kind of being purposeful, but then also curating the input that's coming into you in a way where it's actually motivating you and moving you forward. And yes, the current news, at least traditional news, you definitely have to know what's happening in the world, but you don't have to be part of it in that way. So I definitely agree with you there. You mentioned Wayne Dyer, right? As it relates to mentorship, I anticipate that I understand that's what you just described was really about these folks that are even kind of remote mentoring you, right? Like you're really looking at the content that they've created over time, and you're helping them as you're using that as a mentor. Talk to us about mentorship, both what you're doing with a lot of the groups that you're working with, and how others could both reach out to yourself and curate mentorship so that it kind of keeps them going.
Yeah, for me, the mentoring I do is the best menteeing I do, meaning I learn more from being a mentor. I can't tell you how many times I'm mentoring. I do free trainings every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. The replays are featured on Spotify as the top downloaded podcast called The Playbook. And my meetings and trainings are the #1 downloads compared to the billionaires, millionaires, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers that you'll get there as well. Featured on Entrepreneur to mentor people, and I have a mentoring program with Entrepreneur on there too. You can look at, and then of course, all of the different channels that we're on, every single platform. I do free training, free replays, free guides, exercises, books, free, david@dmeltzer.com. I mentor in groups. You can reach out to me as well. I do one-on-one mentoring, but the key to mentoring is finding the right mentor, right? Find someone who sits in the situation you want to be in. It's a very simple philosophy I have. If I want to get somewhere, #1, I need to know where I want to go. 2, I need to find someone that is there already and ask them for directions. I have paid more dummy tax. I can't promise to pay your state taxes. I can't promise to pay your federal taxes, but I can promise to pay the most expensive tax you'll ever pay. And that's the dummy tax. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Let me pay your dummy tax for you. Dave Meltzer will do that. But remember, be a mentor yourself. So not only find someone in the situation, I'm telling you, I learn more from being the mentor because that's the key to mentee. So I'll sit there sometimes in a mentoring session, a chairman of a Fortune 50 company, big executives down to a startup entrepreneur. I help everyone. But I'll sit there and give advice. And in the back of my head, once again, I'm not afraid of being a hypocrite. I'm not afraid of illuminating the truth. I sit there sometimes when I'm coaching and I'll say, man, that's a great idea. You should really do that, David. You're giving some good advice. Why don't you take it for yourself, you moron? And so I think it's important for everyone to be a mentee and a mentor. to be that person that sits in the situation that somebody wants to be in and have an expertise, a capability, a skill. And look, it doesn't matter what your age is, what your education is. You know, my 10-year-old, he mentors me on a lot of things. I would not be on Instagram. I would not own an esports team if it wasn't for my 10-year-old. So, you know, please, everybody out there, you're old enough to be a man. You can make a significant difference like my 10-year-old has made in my life. And hopefully I can return the favor to him with a few pieces of advice as well.
I love that, and I love that context too, because you know, and I've realized that too as I had a child, and kind of raising my son as well, that mentoring or the exchange of ideas and the exchange of information, it's not about an age thing, right? It's not about I have the experience and I hold all the knowledge and I'm now going to distribute it kind of a one way, but it really is that two-way conversation. You also taking in the value of the conversation, and as it relates to challenging some of the preconceptions that you also had. So talk to me about what would you say, what are one or two qualities that are lacking in leaders today, or at least people who perceive themselves as leaders, and then maybe one or the two that you think that there's an abundance of, and it could be both positive and negative in each way. Just talk about what's lacking and what's prevalent in.
So two of the things I think are lacking are toughness and telephone. I think that people aren't tough. They're too hypersensitive. They're looking for a need to be offended. They're creating separation and interference, the inferiority, superiority between them. Look, a great leader is an intelligent follower. And people aren't tough. If I hear someone tell me I hurt their feelings, look, you have control of your heart set. Toughen up. Explain to me what I did that is not aligned with what you wanted. I'm open. But look, you got to have toughness, and people are quitting. People are quitting. 99% of the people are quitting before they're 25% of the way there. Of the 1% that continue on, another 99% quit before they're 50% the way there. It's the 1% of the 1% that are getting rewarded because they're tough. And the second one is telephone. People, look, they think the telephone is social media. It's not. Telephone carries a frequency and a vibration for your voice. And it's such an important, unbelievable communicator that you can set yourself apart, distinguish yourself in a hyper-competitive, noisy marketplace. If you don't believe me, check how many emails you have right now. Check how many DMs you have right now, and then check how many voicemails you have. You want to get someone's attention? Call them, and learn how to leave a message. Remember, when you call someone or you email someone or you reach out to someone, 80% of the people aren't there. The 80% of the time you have to get them to call you back, but yet nobody practices that. I think practice on the telephone how to get people to call you back. You will improve exponentially, statistically, all your successes just because you get more chances, more at bats, more people calling you back. Then the positive side, what we're doing really well is via data. Leaders are using data better than they were before in order to accelerate, grow, and to create more opportunities. Yes, we are going through a paradigm shift. We have to rethink all of our major institutions in the world, educational, financial, political, but they're going to be and get done. But the amount of technology that we have and data that is allowing us to live a higher quality of life is extraordinary. So leaders are doing a much better job of utilizing data in order to effectuate making more money, helping more people, and enjoying our lives and being happy.
Yeah, and I love what you mentioned there about data, because I think that a lot of folks don't really understand the impact of data. We understand information, right? You could go on Google and search anything. You mentioned that you could actually get, but the data behind that and being able to process that is a skill that is definitely going to be a superpower for a lot of people going forward, because a lot of folks, even the someone who's on Instagram might not even understand the amount of data that they have at their disposal just looking at their network, just kind of scrolling through it and seeing what other people are doing and how to process that. So I definitely agree with you that folks don't really understand how to process that. You mentioned education and kind of being able to facilitate education, and kind of the downside, what's missing in education sometimes. If you had to create your kind of perfect, kind of education system or whatever, what do you think is kind of like some of the tenets of that education, whether it be particularly around professional education that you think, obviously there's values and those kinds of things, but kind of from an education perspective, what would be the tenets?
There's three intelligences that we need to educate. One is academic intelligence, the IQ, the original, being able to consume and process and to analyze information, and academic education. Very important, not by itself needed or wanted or all by itself something I would recommend. It's the combination of all three that we need. The second is the emotional intelligence. And so we need to have an emotional intelligence to understand the core values. People not only buy on, logical reasons, they buy on emotion for logical reasons. So we need to know the logical reasons through the IQ, but through the EQ, the emotional intelligence, we now can connect to people, maximize not only everything that we're connected to, but the infinity, the limitlessness, be able to dream, inspire, and to perspective or materialize that inspiration into reality. You're a 3D printer, taking in that data from your imagination into inspiration through you in order to print it out into a material world with strategy, discipline, and awareness is extraordinary. And so what we need to do is that we have that secondary education in emotional intelligence, which is through experience and mentorship and practice and all the outlier things that we've read about. And then finally, the one that is going to be more prevalent that we see now, especially concerning the pandemic in the last 7 months, is the adaptable intelligence. Right? This adaptable intelligence, when things are accelerating and growing in a compound way, when they are exponentially growing and experiencing unbelievable change so quickly that the institutions have no chance of keeping up or changing, because the minute it reminds me of the old warships that they would develop. It would take 17 years to build a warship, and they actually had to budget for new technology because the technology that is originally budgeted for would not be in existence 17 years. And now it's, you can't even, could you imagine the technology in a warship, if it takes 17 years to build it, how you could plan for technology in a warship for 17 years from now? That's the big challenge. And budget for it? Oh my goodness. So use IQ, EQ, and now adaptable intelligence, and you combine those three together. That's what education's all about.
I love that, and I'm just kind of tying that back, particularly as you mentioned the EQ, and to what you said earlier about the telephone, right? Part of what's missing, is that folks are kind of, I mean, the term is dialing it in, but they're actually not dialing, right? But they kind of distance themselves from the actual communication, right? That actual one-to-one. So they're not picking up the phone. So they're the fluctuation of a voice and kind of the stuttering, all those kind of natural human emotions and qualities are being lost in that communication. So you can't really make the decisions, right? And I see how from your thinking how that also factors into the EQ. And it makes you a better leader and a better entrepreneur as well. So as it relates to, we're in the holiday season, we're kind of trying to get pick-me-ups, those kinds of things. What are you excited about in the next probably 3 to 6 months? Where are you spending your time? How can folks inspire you?
Yeah, so for me, I'm most excited about my mission to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. All the things that I do, the playbook, the podcast, my 2 TV shows, Elevator Pitch, season 6 is launched. I'm the executive producer of that. And I have my own new show now coming out on Bloomberg in January. If you want to try out, there's $50,000 of cash and prizes every episode, called 2-Minute Drill. Pitch me anything you want. 2-Minute Drill on Bloomberg TV, on Amazon. You're going to love it. The show's coming out. We have season 2 in June. We're taking applications now. dmeltzer.com/pitch. My books, my guides, my exercise, all for free. My Friday trainings, my replays on Spotify, Entrepreneur, my mentoring, my coaching, anything that you need. Those are the things that excite me, to be able to find 1,000 of you 1,000 of G Kofis out there that are empowering 1,000 people to empower 1,000 people to be happy. 1,000 times 1,000's a million times 1,000's a billion. We can create a collective consciousness of the greatest virus ever created, happiness. Happiness is spread simply by witnessing it. It strengthens you mentally, spiritually, physically, financially. It strengthens your immune system. So everybody catch my disease, catch happiness, empower other people with happiness, spread it all. It goes through a mask. Happiness goes through a mask. I know you can't see the smile, but they can read your eyes. They can see your wave. Happiness goes through that mask. Spread happiness, strengthen everybody out there mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, and their immune system. So that's what I'm doing. All of it excites me, not just for the next 3 to 6 months, but for the next 30 to 60 years. Let's all join in and create a collective consciousness of happiness and abundance.
Well, David, that's definitely, something that's inspiring. The smiling, the happiness. And I think that a lot of us in our daily life, especially if we watch too much of the news, we kind of losing sight of a lot of that. We do have a lot, especially if you're living in California, you have to be happy for. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's the expression of that, is that channeling of that, and we are definitely happy to have had you join us and inspire the Global Entrepreneurship Week audience. And we look forward to, we're going to dial into your new Bloomberg show, and, definitely appreciate the fact that you spent time to inspire us.
Thank you so much. Remember, everyone, as it says behind me, be kind to your future self, do good deeds, and be an entrepreneur for the betterment of all.